with the EU and trying to reform the World Trade Organization. Opening arguments began in the Senate today. The House managers made their case for impeaching President Trump, but some say the proceedings won't matter come November. And the U.S. government is looking to adjust certain immigration restrictions. Its goal is to stop women coming to the U.S. solely to give birth on American soil. After confirmation yesterday that the deadly new coronavirus had reached the U.S., Chinese authorities today announced a plan to quarantine the city of Wuhan, where the virus originated. Nobody is allowed to leave the city, and the airport and all public transit will be shut down starting tomorrow.
Chinese authorities said that starting at 10 a.m. on Thursday, public transportation, including the subway and ferries, would be suspended in Wuhan. The move could impact travel plans for millions ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday, as Wuhan is home to more than 11 million people. A video clip obtained by the Epoch Times shows the usually crowded city has become like a ghost town. Likewise, police are also seen trying to disperse elders at a local senior center. Many hospitals in China are on full alert and have set up temporary tents to isolate a large number of patients that are expected to appear. Video acquired by RFA shows rows of tents set up. Officials believe the virus originated from a market where wildlife is traded illegally.
From what we can now see, the origin is the wild animals sold in the seafood market. This wild animal virus is adapting as well. This fits our knowledge of coronaviruses.
Health experts said the coronavirus that originated in China can spread human to human, prompting fears that epidemic will continue to spread.
The
main transmission method is respiratory tract transmission. The virus has the potential to mutate, and there is risk of further spread of the epidemic.
In the U.S., the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says it's testing several people for coronavirus. On Tuesday, the CDC announced the first case of the Wuhan coronavirus in the U.S. It's a man in his 30s who lives in Washington state. But health officials said the man was in good condition and wasn't considered a threat to medical staff or the public. U.S. officials stressed that they believe the virus's overall risk to the American public remained low.
The risk to the United States for this to be a big problem, or even a problem at all, is very low. That doesn't mean we should not take it seriously. We are taking it very seriously.
He adds that the National Institute of Health is working to develop a possible vaccine. But according to the UK's Telegraph, disease modeling experts from Imperial College London say the true figure of infected cases in Wuhan could be 4,000 and almost 10,000 in the worst-case scenario. In addition to China and the U.S., cases have been reported in South Korea, Thailand, and Japan. Suspected cases have also been detected in Australia.
And the World Health Organization held an emergency meeting today. They will decide tomorrow if the coronavirus constitutes an international emergency. And as cases of death and infection are on the rise amid the coronavirus outbreak, a Chinese woman told NTD that local hospitals are refusing to accept or treat her infected family members. She says the outbreak is far worse than official statements claim.
Chinese authorities say 17 have died and hundreds have been infected. But a woman whose family is in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, told NTD they believe those aren't the real numbers. The situation is worse. To protect her family in China, the woman asked not to be identified. She said her brother, who lived in Wuhan, was officially diagnosed with the new virus and died earlier this month. Her niece and niece's husband are displaying similar symptoms, but local hospitals refused to admit them, saying the hospitals are overcrowded and don't have enough beds for them. In a phone interview with NTD, the woman said their situation had worsened due to lack of treatment.
My niece's husband can no longer walk. He can't eat anymore. It's getting more and more dangerous for them.
The woman, who now lives in Norway, tweeted about her family's experience. She says the Chinese police then showed up at her niece's home and asked for the tweets to be deleted.
I'm not against the government. I don't care about politics. But now my family is in danger. I want them to be saved. I'm very close to my brother. I cried my eyes out, and I do not dare to go back home because it's an infected area.
Similar accounts of the Chinese hospitals not accepting or isolating patients, not testing patients for the virus, and not documenting deaths from infections have been circulating online in both Chinese and Western media. This has raised concerns that the actual scale of the outbreak could be much higher than Chinese officials have declared. Reporting by Harry Zhao and Penny Zhou, NTD News.
President Trump ends his Davos trip today, praising America's economic success, pushing for an EU trade deal, and overhauling the World Trade Organization.
At a surprise news conference before departing Switzerland on Wednesday, President Trump again lauding America's economic achievements.
Everyone's talking about America's unprecedented economic success. It's really the talk of the town, so to speak.
During the two-day gathering, President Trump met with business executives and various world leaders, including the presidents of the European Commission. At the press conference, he complained about the EU's tariffs and trade barriers as among the reasons for over $100 billion deficit, but he also expressed confidence about a trade deal with the bloc.
We're going to start negotiating a trade deal with because the European Commission was frankly in many ways tougher than China. I say that respectfully, but that's the way it is. They've taken advantage for a long time, and so we're going to have a deal. I suspect we're going to be able to make a deal. Otherwise, we'll have to do something else.
In a separate interview with the Wall Street Journal, President Trump said he would impose tariffs on European cars if no fair deal is reached. The head of the World Trade Organization, Roberto Azevedo, also at the press conference, agreed with Trump's stance that the multilateral trading system needs to be reformed, saying he is committed to doing that.
I think they understand that the system has not been functioning properly in many areas. That's something that we're trying to address. I'm very happy that in the conversation today with President Trump, he agreed that this is something that needs to happen. The WTO has to change. We are committed to effect those changes, and this is something that we're serious about.
President Trump has repeatedly complained about the organization being unfair to the U.S., including treating countries like China and India as developing nations. Last December, the U.S. blocked new appointments to the organization's appellate body, essentially crippled its dispute settlement mechanism. The high-profile economic summit in the Swiss Alpine town runs through Friday.
Tensions over the digital tax proposed by European nations brimming at the World Economic Forum today. Ultimately, France confirmed a truce with the U.S. No digital taxes on American companies for a year, but no international deal is in sight yet.
On Wednesday, France confirmed a truce with the United States after meeting with Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin.
France is ready to delay the U.S.'s payment of its down payment of its digital tax to December 2020.
European countries say that companies like Google and Facebook aren't paying their fair share in taxes as they profit online but aren't taxed like brick-and-mortar shops. The U.S. made it clear that it's against the European movement, which it says is unfair to American businesses.
You know, if people want to just arbitrarily put taxes on our digital companies, we'll consider arbitrarily putting taxes on car companies.
As part of the truce, Mnuchin agreed to suspend retaliatory tariffs on French goods, but Le Maire added that France would not scrap the digital tax law until an international solution was reached. The UK, on the other hand, says its plans are good to go.
Those digital taxes in April.
We plan to go ahead with our digital services tax in April. It is a proportionate tax, and it is a tax that is deliberately designed as a temporary tax. So it will fall away once there is an international solution.
Neither Le Maire nor Jabot said what an international solution could look like. However, Le Maire will meet with the U.S. on Thursday to discuss the issue.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has warned that taking easy money from China could be counterproductive. He made the comments while on a trip to Jamaica today.
It's tempting to accept easy money from places like China. But what good is it if it feeds corruption and undermines your rule of law? What good are those investments if, in fact, they ruin your environment and don't create jobs for your people? There's a better alternative. We all know it, and we can all achieve it together. Western firms, American firms, operate according to values proven to produce good deals and quality work, the work that we do in democracies.
Pompeo's comments come just days after the U.S. and China signed Phase 1 of a new trade deal. The deal reduced U.S. tariffs on some Chinese goods in exchange for the purchase of more American goods. It also addressed U.S. complaints about Chinese intellectual property practices. And President Trump's impeachment trial is underway in the Senate. The chamber began to hear opening arguments this afternoon, following this morning's vote to confirm trial rules.
Senators took in the first of 3 days of opening arguments on Wednesday as part of the chamber's impeachment trial of President Trump. Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Adam Schiff, led the prosecution. His remarks sought to establish his case against Trump.
There is no question that President Trump intended in pressing the Ukraine leader to look into his political rival.
But ahead of Schiff's opening arguments, Senator Lindsey Graham said the proceedings won't matter in the long run come the November elections.
This won't matter much. People are going to judge the president about what he's done and what he can do. And they're going to look at the Democratic alternative and ask, will I be better off with this person versus Trump?
Graham said that during the Mueller investigation, he worked with his Democratic colleagues to make sure the president cooperated with special counsel Robert Mueller.
And I told the president to his face, if it's proven you worked with the Russians or you sought something from the Russians and got it, that's it for me and you.
But he said that now the same Democrats he worked with are asking him to legitimize a process he said will destroy the presidency over time. He added that if he were the president, he wouldn't cooperate with the House managers either. The House prosecutors will have 24 hours over 3 days to present their case. The president's legal team will then mount a defense over another 24 hours over 3 days. For now, Senate Republicans voted not to immediately call witnesses and subpoena documents. Senators are expected to take only Sunday off.
The U.S. government is working on new immigration restrictions aimed at stopping birth tourism. Current laws allow anyone born in the U.S. to obtain American citizenship by default. As a result, foreign citizens have been traveling to the U.S. to give birth. The families do it so that the child can get a U.S. passport. The State Department plans to announce the new rules on Thursday. One draft of the plan requires pregnant women to face an additional level of scrutiny to get a visa. Some American companies charge foreign families tens of thousands of dollars to help pregnant women come to the U.S. to give birth. They also organize medical care and accommodation. And prosecutors give their opening statements today as the rape trial of Hollywood giant Harvey Weinstein begins. The DA says Weinstein is a seasoned predator and his victims were no match for him. Reporter Kevin Hogan has more.
The rape trial of movie mogul Harvey Weinstein began on Wednesday in Lower Manhattan, starting with the prosecution's opening statement. Weinstein responded to a reporter's question before entering the courtroom.
Harvey, do you think you're going to get a fair trial today?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
I have good lawyers.
The assistant district attorney pointed to Weinstein as she gave her opening statement against him. After calling him a rapist, she said he is a seasoned predator and his victims were no match for him. Weinstein is charged with assaulting 2 women. He could spend the rest of his life in jail if convicted of the most serious offense, predatory sexual assault. The DA says Weinstein sexually assaulted his former production assistant, Mimi Halle, in his loft apartment in July 2006. Prosecutors plan to have other women take the stand to establish a pattern of predatory behavior, a strategy that helped convict comedian Bill Cosby of sexual assault in 2008. Defense lawyers said on Tuesday they intend to tell jurors his accusers sent him dozens of loving emails and bragged about their relations with him. But the DA told the jury rape is not only a back alley attack by a stranger, it can be from someone they know. She added that victims will often reach back out to their attacker. The trial is expected to last 6 weeks. Regardless of the outcome, Weinstein faces additional charges in California. Kevin Hogan, NTD News, New York.
And still to come, we talked to one San Francisco resident about how she's volunteering her time to help clean up her city.
I have traveled all over the world to 50 countries now. and I have never seen a production any better than this anywhere.
It's absolutely out of this world.
It's blown away my expectations.
It was just a superior performance that truly could bridge the world through music and dance.
Startling and breathtaking. We haven't had quite an experience like that in all the years that I've lived here, so it was special for us.
I think that I learned more in this performance than I actually do in a whole week of school.
The beautiful costumes and people just float. The choreography is incredible and the storyline, beautiful, beautiful.
It's so beautiful. I'm getting teary-eyed watching. It's very moving. You feel it. You're feeling the show.
It's like a mini vacation that transported me into another place, into another world, into another culture.
When I came here tonight, I felt very dejected about the human race, about everything going on in this world. And during the performance, I just felt now there is hope for each of us individually, as well as for all of us collectively.
Shenyun was more breathtaking, more heart-wrenchingly beautiful, more amazing than I had expected. It's very difficult to put into words, actually. You just have to come see it.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people. I'm a little freaked out that that many people have seen my face. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
San Francisco has a problem with garbage on the streets. A local resident took matters into her own hands to help clean it up. NTD's Eileen Ang reports.
Cigarette butts, feces, and needles. San Francisco's dirty streets have been a long-standing problem. One Bay Area resident decided to clean up the mess herself.
We have a few dump trucks, a grapple truck, and then about 100 volunteers on foot. We're going to be coming through the downtown area, and then our large equipment is going to be hitting the Industrial, Bayview, and Hunters Point, and we're hoping to get 70 tons of garbage.
She is paying for supplies out of pocket. She says while the city offers a pickup service for extra trash, people often go through it before it's collected. She wants a one-day permit for dumping, where people can bring in their own supplies and throw the trash away themselves. But the city doesn't have a program like that.
It's going to cost me $14,000 to dump it.
Former San Francisco mayoral candidate Richie Greenberg told the Epoch Times a dangerous situation arises when needles are easily accessible for drug users, some who discard them on the street.
They go to a needle distribution place, they grab a bunch of needles, and they just use it and throw it right in the street. They're not bringing it back to a recycling place.
He says when people say that San Francisco has become like a third world country,
this is what they're talking about. It's like going to the most dirty, disorganized, lawless cities in the world.
Patton says she's not taking action out of frustration or anger, but just wants the city to do more to solve the problem long term. NTD News, San Francisco, California.
Mexican authorities are blocking the latest U.S.-bound migrant caravan, and they seem determined to stop them. Previous caravans were eventually allowed to pass and reach the U.S. border, but this time hundreds of migrants have been detained and deported.
The latest caravan of Central American migrants clashed with a wall of troops at Mexico's border this week. National Guard forces were lined up along the river border with Guatemala on Monday. They stood against several thousand people who fled gang violence last week. Then came chaotic scuffles before some managed to break through gaps between troops and ran across the riverbank. Migrant Jose Castillo was among those facing Mexican forces.
There's a big difference because in the caravans from previous years, you were only on the border for 2 days, and after 2 days, they let you pass. The first caravan from 2018, people came through, and now the authorities don't even let us go through the river.
This latest caravan is a test for Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He's trying to stop undocumented Central American migrants bound for the US at the bidding of US President Donald Trump. If Mexico and Central American countries can't contain migrants, Trump has threatened economic pain. Obrador said Tuesday operations at the border were meant to protect migrants.
Coming up, Boeing CEO expects to restart production of the 737 MAX plane months earlier than predicted. More on that after the break.
TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Are you tired of newspapers spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? And are you looking for honest coverage of Spygate, the true story of collusion? Or the truth behind the crisis at our southern border? Or how the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert America and our way of life? Then you need to check out the Epoch Times newspaper. It's independent, nonpartisan, and it doesn't push any political agendas. Just go to readepoch.com and try it yourself for a full month for just $1. You'll absolutely love it.
Boeing's chief executive told reporters today that the U.S. plane maker expects 737 MAX production to start months before a predicted mid-year return to service.
Boeing chief executive Dave Calhoun told reporters on Wednesday that the U.S. plane maker expects to resume 737 MAX production months earlier than its forecasted mid-year return to service. The company announced a production halt in December, when the global grounding of the fast-selling 737 MAX looked set to last well into 2020. The plane was taken out of the skies after 2 deadly crashes. The company said on Tuesday it now expects regulators to approve the plane's return to service in the middle of the year. Calhoun said he did not see recent issues raised about wiring or software as serious problems. The latest pushback in the forecasted return to service is due to the company's decision to endorse simulator training for pilots before they resume flights. Calhoun declined to provide a specific date for resumption of production, but said it will start months before mid-year.
Toyota and Honda are recalling millions of vehicles over unrelated safety issues. Toyota is recalling 3.4 million cars, 2.9 million of them in the U.S. The issue is potentially defective equipment that's meant to protect passengers during a crash. Affected models include some Corolla, Corolla Matrix, Avalon, and Avalon HV lines produced between 2010 and 2019. Honda is recalling 2.7 million cars. That's 2.4 million in the U.S. and 300,000 in Canada. Honda says some Acuras produced between 1996 and 2003 may have dysfunctional airbag inflators. The inflators might have been produced without the appropriate seals needed to work. And up next, the latest models of boats, yachts, and deals are put on display. Find out what the New York Boat Show has to offer after the break.
Every once in a while, something comes along so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. so beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
America's longest-running boat show came to New York today, hoping to attract customers with the latest models and deals. NTD's Juliette Song reports.
The oldest boat show in the nation kicked off at New York's Javits Center on Wednesday, bringing 350 boats for every budget under one roof. The show also includes boats that are more versatile in function, the latest hot trends in boating industry.
Whereas before you may have been very specifically looking for a fishing boat or a water sports boat or a family boat, now manufacturers are innovating more and more to bring all of those things into one because boaters really want to have it all.
One of the show highlights is this Nautique G23 Paragon, a wake sport dream boat. It has a movable roof and can also create custom waves for different surfers to ride on.
Certain people have their own preferences on size, height, length of the wave, just for different sized riders, easier for younger kids or adults, like that.
Aside from shopping for boats, the event also features a mini pool where people can practice their docking skills with a scale model.
Here we can simulate pretty much any dock that you run into, any docking problems. We can get a fan, add wind, we can make waves, so we can make it so it's a lot like your real dock at home.
The show runs through January 26th. On Super Thursday, show visitors getting one-day-only deals on many boats. Reporting by Juliette Song, NTD News, New York.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.